Now, over the summer, we saw many inspirational stories. We heard many inspirational stories of people overcoming tremendous odds and achieving, well, something quite frankly heroic. My next guest this morning is no different. Bethanie Thorn suffers from a very rare tissue disorder, but she's just won an award due to her fundraising. I'm very pleased to say that Bethanie has joined me in the studio with Mum Julie. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning to both of you. Nice of you to come in. Hello.
Trying to get the head.
You are struggling a bit with your equipment, aren't you?
I am.
Just pull yourself together. Bethanie, good morning to you. Nice to see you as well. Can you just describe to me what this thing is that you've got?
Basically, it's a collagen and connective tissue disorder. So there are quite a few different types of it. Some are rarer than others, but I have type 3, the hypermobility type, which typically affects the joints and the way they work. But in my case, it's also affected my organs. And
it's called what?
It's called EHLERS-DANLOS syndrome.
EHLERS-DANLOS syndrome. Right. And are you born with it?
Yeah, you are. It's a genetic condition, but it's often misdiagnosed or not diagnosed at all because it's diagnosed based only on symptoms.
Right. And what are the symptoms? What sort of things happen to you?
Well, all my life I've had problems with my joints. Some people's joints dislocate very easily, but mine have just been very painful, particularly my knees. And I now have a bit of trouble walking with them. They often just give way on me. They don't hold my weight properly.
Well, you just fall over?
Yeah. So I can't walk very far. I have to walk with support. Other symptoms are with the skin. Skin can often be very stretchy and it's different textured as well. It's often like baby skin. It's kind of like velvet texture.
Yeah.
But it's also affected my internal organs, so I now can't eat because of the way my digestive system works.
Right. And Mum, when did you first know that Bethanie had this?
I suppose with hindsight, when you look back when your child is born, regarding obviously her digestive problems, Bethanie would always scream constantly every night, and I was just told that probably Bethanie had colic. But I just don't really ever remember Bethanie ever being happy unless she wasn't eating, which really isn't really a normal sort of thing, really. I mean, children should enjoy eating, and she never really used to if you tried to burp her, she would never actually bring anything, was never productive until a few days later, and then she'd be happily playing with the toys, and then be sick all over them and then just give you a smile as if to say, I feel so much better now.
Right.
But, and I mentioned this frequently to health visitors, but they said, well, Bethanie's putting on weight. She may be small, but she's thriving. So we just really went along with that. And then when she was 2.5, she was always constantly complaining about her legs hurt. And if I said to you, she used to have a comforter blanket and suck her thumb, but the blanket wasn't to hold, it was to bind round her legs. And every time she went to a sleepover, that blanket would go with her.
Yeah.
Sometimes 2 blankets and heat pads. And then when we used to go on school trips, we used to have gel to put on her knees because she was constantly saying they hurt. But we were told by the doctors that this was just growing pains, and the growing pains went on for 14 years. And then we went on holiday, August 2010, but prior to that, Bethanie, I'd taken her to the doctors because she was getting pains in her chest. She'd had, they said, asthma as well when she was younger. And it just sort of nothing really significant. But then she suddenly became very ill, September 2010. We started with abdominal pain. And then she's just never been able to eat since then. Obviously, she had lots of tests done when she went to the Royal London Hospital. And they discovered that Bethanie's got a very slow emptying of her stomach. That was the original thing.
Yeah.
And they said she had something called gastroparesis, which is partial paralysis of her stomach. And obviously, as the time has gone on, it's affected her whole digestive tract to the extent that basically, if she with her feed that she has, because she had a nasogastric tube, first of all.
Yeah.
She had one of those for 8 months, and then basically we had to have 32 nasogastric tubes repassed down our nose. Very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
We didn't, obviously not nice at all, and also not nice as a parent to keep watching your child have these tubes repassed down her nose. And after 8 months, it was also marking her face. She just looked like she was a burns victim for a while.
Right.
She also couldn't go to school because she just had no energy. And sometimes she couldn't even lift her head off the pillow. She became very dizzy as well. So that was that. August last year, she had a gastrostomy, which then started to fail. After 8 months, we now have a jejustomy. It goes basically into the stomach. It's a surgical feeding tube.
Right.
And they call it a gastro because of gastro to do with intestine, and things like that.
Is that to feed you, Bethany?
Yes, basically a feeding tube,
Right.
So she had a gastrostomy, which was surgically placed, and then April this year, we went in hospital, February and March, we had 3 admissions alone. Bethany became very ill again, and her weight started to drop off. So her feeding tube was not being tolerated, so they suggested that she tried TPM, which is a form of, they feed you by your heart. And basically, while they were looking into this, they discovered Bethany has a heart condition, so she's got a cardiac condition as well, which also is congenital. She was born with it. And she has a very large ASD and a slight prolapse of her mitral valve.
Which means the heart's not working properly.
Yes, she's got
an ASD is a hole between the chambers.
Right.
Which is supposed to close when you're born, but either mine never closed or it didn't close fully and it's stretched as I've grown. We're not really sure, but it's now very large.
And what can they do about that, Bethany?
Surgery is an option.
Yeah.
I have had one surgery in it already, which was in July this year.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a method called transcatheter, where they go up by the vein in the groin and they try and put a device in there which kind of blocks the hole. It blocks it, and eventually a clot is supposed to form inside this kind of metal cage that seals the hole. When they went to do my surgery, however, they found that the hole was bigger than they originally thought, so they had to try different sizes of devices, and the smaller one was slipping through the hole and they would have lost it, and the bigger one was covering the chambers, so they couldn't fix it that way.
What are they going to do?
I'm due to go for open heart surgery. It's just deciding when they're going to do it, really, when's the best time, because I have GCSEs coming up as well.
Well, I was going to say, you're 16 years old.
Yeah.
You've got your education to think of. You've also got your life to think of. Because at 16, you want to have some fun, don't you?
Yeah.
Are you able to do that?
I mean, I have my friends, and I am able to go out with my friends, so it is nice.
Are they supportive?
Yeah, I do have a few very supportive friends.
And they understand
really
what's going on, and
yeah.
So how are you feeding yourself now? How are you getting the nutrition that you need?
Basically through the feeding tube into my jejunum, which is, there's a hole into my stomach, and then a further tube goes down into my intestines.
Oh, I see. You've just shown me that. Yeah.
So that's how it's being absorbed through the intestines, basically.
Right, and so that's keeping you going.
Yeah, for now. Yeah.
Basically, keeping Bethany alive.
Right.
Because without that, if you couldn't eat, she also doesn't drink a lot enough. So basically, without that, she wouldn't be here.
Let's bring Lara Blooms in from EDS UK. Lara, you've been listening to our conversation here. How many people does this condition affect?
Well, at the moment, statistically, it's about 1 in 5,000, although, as Bethany said, it is thought to be, although still a rare condition, a lot more prevalent than that, and in fact just missed and underdiagnosed.
Right, and this is the impression I got from Julie, actually, that the doctors really, they don't get it, they don't recognise it.
Yeah, we have a few wonderful specialists that are mainly located in London that really understand the condition and have done a lot of research into it, and that's how we're now able to understand how the gastrointestinal system's involved in the cardiac system and the autonomic nervous system, and that's taken actually quite a long time, and it's only recently that they can really understand how that's all connected to EDS, whereas a lot of doctors still just think it's hypermobility, and even worse than that, quite benign at that. So it's getting the medical professionals to A, diagnose, and then B, kind of be confident to then refer to the correct specialist so that people can have the correct treatment.
And what will the treatment, what will be the outcome of the treatment? I mean, can this be kept under control? Can it be cured?
Well, there's no cure. It's a genetic condition, so as such there is no cure at the moment, and it seems very far off. I mean, we still don't know the genes involved in most of the types of EDS. We know for the vascular type, which is the rare terminal type of EDS, but we still don't know a lot at all about the most prevalent, which is the hypermobility type, which Bethany has. And as you can hear from Bethany's story, it's absolutely not just hypermobility. You know, you can be very, very ill with this, and although it doesn't shorten your life, it can heavily affect your life. And it really depends on the individual as to how successful the treatment can be and what treatment can be given. But before you can even worry about that, there are so few people that are even being given the opportunity to test that treatment. You know, we're still having so many people that their doctors just will not refer to them because they do not respect the fact that all the gastro and autonomic problems are associated with the EDS.
And, you know, I was doing some reading about this last night, and, you know, it's only in recent years, really, that we have regarded it as a sort of proper condition rather than being, oh, well, you know, just get on with it, and, oh, look, you've got double joints.
Absolutely. I mean, before, I would say recently, really, in the last few years, the only time you ever heard of the condition was circus freaks and people who could fit into boxes and bend their arms backwards and forwards. But if you imagine, you know, connective tissue is over 90% of your body. Yeah. So there's very few things that the symptoms, you know, miss out. It can affect your eyes, your ears, your, you know, everything from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes. And that's no fun. And, you know, there's very few people that I think would describe it as something that they benefit from. It's certainly a condition that affects people's lives in a very negative way. And if we only could get the diagnosis in there from a young age, because then it then creates other problems such as depression and anxiety, because people aren't getting diagnosed and they're being accused of being hypochondriacs and having low pain thresholds and being anxious and having panic attacks, when really it's their autonomic system not being able to slow down their heart rate. It's not that they're panicking.
Right.
You know, it's just one example of the many misdiagnoses that people are getting. And it's a vicious circle. So, you know, we're desperately trying at the charity to change this perception in the medical community and make people understand the severity of it and what that there are things out there that can be done.
Right, Lara, thank you very much. Lara Blooms from EDS UK. Now, look, I'd like to come back to you both in a second, if I can, because, you know, we've talked about the condition, we've talked about you. Let's talk about you and the money raising you've done, because you've done some fantastic stuff and you have been awarded accordingly. So let's have a talk about that in just a few seconds' time. It is the Dave Monk programme. It is BBC Essex you're listening to. Thank you for being with me this morning.
BBC Essex.
I have to say, until yesterday, I had never heard of EHLERS-DANLOS syndrome, and I bet, Bethany, you wish you'd never heard of EHLERS-DANLOS syndrome as well. Same with you, Julie.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I'm talking to Bethany, who has this syndrome, was born with it, genetic condition, and also mum Julie. Now, you've been very successful at fundraising, haven't you?
Yeah.
Tell me what you've been doing.
Well, last year I held a chocolate tea party in aid of the Sick Children's Trust, because that's a charity that it provides a home from home. So my mum could stay at the charity while I was in hospital.
Right.
So last year we did our tea party for that, and we raised £700, which is
pretty good,
great,
I'd say.
Yeah. And this year we're planning to do another event, which will be in aid of the Sick Children's Trust and the EDS UK charity.
Yeah. And tell me about your website, your Facebook page.
Yeah, well, basically my mum set up a Facebook page for me only a few weeks ago, actually. It's called Bethany's Battle, and basically it just explains my story, what I've been through, and kind of updates and things.
Yeah.
And so far I think we've reached